Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of January the 4th, 2023. I am Brake Simmons, the Planning and Zoning Chair. Prior to this meeting, announcements were posted and notices were sent to all board members, commissioners, staff, interested parties, and applicants to participate in this meeting. I will now turn the meeting over to Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, Board Chair, to introduce and confirm the presence of the commissioners. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Good evening and Happy New Year to our citizens today, and welcome to the Douglas County Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting January 4th, 2023. I will start with roll call for the Board of Commissioners. I'll start to my right. Commissioner Kelly Robinson.
Present, Madam Chair.
District 3 Commissioner and Madam Vice Chair Tarenia Carthen.
Present.
Commissioner Mark Alcarez, District 4.
Present.
District 1 Commissioner Henry Mitchell III.
Present.
Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, Chairwoman, present. We do have an established quorum, Board of Commissioners. I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also present, we have members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Please confirm your presence when I call your name. Teresa Knowles.
Present.
Oric Curry.
Present.
Frank Payne.
Present.
Kirk Nicholson.
Present.
We have excused Brandon Penniman and Rob Thomas from the meeting tonight, but we do have a quorum. Ms. Allison Duncan, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff and zoning and planning staff present in the meeting. Ms. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have with us County Attorney Michael Coleman. We have Managing Director of Development Services, James Worthington. We have Assistant County Engineer, Travis McDonald. We have our Senior Zoning Administrator, Phil Schaefer, our Senior Planner, Jaquil Johnson, our Planning and Zoning Board Clerk, Johanna Womack, and the Secretary of the Planning and Zoning Department, Kim Waters. I would also like to thank our communications staff and our Sheriff's Department for being here with us this evening and providing services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, the agent, or the property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners have granted approval. Tonight's procedures, I will conduct the public hearings. Planning and zoning staff will announce each application, followed by a full presentation on that application. The applicant or their representative and members of the public in favor of the application can have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes to speak on behalf of an application. Members of the public in opposition to an application will also be able to present their information. They also will have 2 minutes per person for a time limit of 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes has expired or the input is finished, we'll close the public hearing. At this point, the Planning and Zoning staff will clarify any points that the Planning and Zoning Board has. If staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant or the applicant's representative for points of clarification. And this is not a time for them to represent their case. Planning and Zoning Board will then entertain a motion. Our first agenda item tonight is the approval of the minutes of November the 29th, 2022 Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. Planning and zoning members, you have seen the minutes. Do I have any changes or modifications? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve the minutes of November the 29th, 2022.
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 29th, 22 meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Or Curry, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of the November 29th, 2022 Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the board with an approval of the November 29th, 2022 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the November 29, 2022 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 29, 2022 meeting as
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Board, any discussion regarding the minutes? Okay, being no discussion, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of these minutes of being approved, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries. Thank you. I yield back the floor to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Commissioners. I believe Mr. Johnson, our senior planner, will present the next or the first agenda item.
Thank you and good evening. Our first case is a special use permit for applicant Roy Sparks. Mr. Sparks is requesting a special use permit in order to establish a short-term rental for his home located at 5303 Driscoll Drive. The parcel is 20.58 acres. But before you, I have the zoning map. It is currently zoned as RA, residential agriculture. This is the aerial image of the property. This is the street view of the home on the property. And Mr. Sparks does meet the zoning criteria for the special use permit, and staff is recommending approval. Staff and the applicant will now accept any questions that the board may have.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You would have 2 minutes per person.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Roy Sparks, I'm the applicant, and I actually live at 5275 Driscoll Drive, next door to this property. And the chance came available to get the property, and I feel like it's perfect for what we're wanting to do, because it sits way back in the woods, and they can come rent the house and go down and play on Dog River for a while. But if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes. Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in opposition. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the Planning and Zoning staff or of the applicant?
I have a question for the applicant. Mr. Sparks, could you?
Yes, sir.
You've indicated that it's going to be short-term rental. This is an Airbnb? or-
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Will you be managing it?
It goes through Airbnb, and my wife is the host. She does part of the managing, and we do the cleanup. And Airbnb does all the paperwork and pays the motel, hotel tax, and that stuff.
Okay, so you do have restrictions as it
Yes, sir.
applies? Okay. No party house, right?
No, sir, I'm next door. Unless I get to come to the party first. If it's T-bone steak, you can do at it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
I'll ask Mr. Sparks a question. Just out of curiosity, how will you control the number of people that stay in the house?
That's controlled through the rules we got set up with Airbnb.
So is it like per bedroom?
Yes, ma'am. You got a certain amount that we limit it to.
So you've got like 4 3-bedrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
And your neighbors, no one's complained about it being used as a short-term rental?
No, ma'am.
To you? Okay.
Yeah, he was actually here at the other hearing at Transportation, and he and I are good friends.
Okay, so all is good?
All is good.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, call for a motion.
You want to guilty me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, Planning and Zoning Board, Madam Chairman. Any questions from the Board of Commissioners? I'm sorry.
Happy New Year.
It's a new year.
Chairman Simmons, that's okay. That's why I said, oh, that's quick. Board of Commissioners, at this time, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, sounds like we have no questions. Okay, with that being said, now I yield back to you.
Thank you,
Chairman
Madam Chair.
Simmons, you have the floor.
Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. We have a motion.
This is Frank Payne. Make a motion to approve application S 2022-82, request for a special use permit to allow a short-term rental in the R and A zoning district.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Teresa Knowles, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving S 2022-82, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. We send it to you with a unanimous recommendation to approve S 2022-82.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion. Make a motion.
Okay.
We accept the S 2022-82 according to the Planning and Zoning Board.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Alcarez. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Board, any discussion? Mm-hmm.
I just got one.
Commissioner Robinson, you have the
Yeah,
floor.
I'll be quick. We'll keep this moving. How many acres does this sit on? Maybe I missed it.
If you could, Mrs. Sparks, you, come. Yeah, that's fine.
20.58 acres.
Right, so 20.5 acres, and how many bedrooms again? I'm processing. What was it? 4 3-bedrooms?
That might be better for the applicant to answer. 20.58 acres,
20.58 acres, and how many bedrooms?
4 bedrooms,
4 bedrooms, that's fine. How many square feet?
1,748.
I got it. I yield back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Robinson. Any other question or any other discussion, Board? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. When I call your district, please respond accordingly. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries for approval. Thank you so much. I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Our next agenda item. Mr. Johnson, is that
Congratulations,
yours?
Mr. Sparks. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have a rezoning and special use permit for Mr. Burku. Mr. Burku is requesting a rezoning from RLD, residential low density, to LI, light industrial, and is also requesting a special use permit to allow a truck parking facility located on McIntosh Road. The subject property is on the north side of McIntosh Road at the intersection of Industrial Access Road, and the property is 6.55 acres in size and is currently undeveloped. Before you, I have the zoning map showing the parcel is zoned as RLD, and it is surrounded by light industrial. This is an aerial image of the property. Before you, I have on the left, going north on Industrial Access, is the property to the left, and on the image to the right is the intersection of Industrial Access Road and McIntosh Road. Before you, I have a concept plan of the truck parking facility. As you can see, access to the facility will be off Industrial Access Road. Based on the zoning criteria, it does meet the zoning criteria, and we are recommending approval from the rezoning from RLD to LI, light industrial, as well as the special use permit to allow truck parking facility. Of course, Mr. Burku will still have to go through DRC, our Developmental Review Committee, and meet all county standards for the parking. Now, staff and the applicant will answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, one thing we don't have the zoning option page. We have the special use zoning, special use option page, but that's not included in our packet. But I'm sure the planning and zoning members can work up an option on that. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. So please state your name and address for the record first.
Okay, my name is Amari Birku. I'm the applicant. I just like to plan to have a parking lot because of my brothers and cousins, they drive a truck. They have suffering looking for a parking lot, and they just tow their trucks, so they're suffering, so I just come up to find a solution. That's why I intend to do it. If you have more questions, I would be happy to answer.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you would have 2 minutes.
Yes, hello. My name is Boris Whiteside. I'm a friend of Mr. Burku. I actually live in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Just want the commission board to recognize that Mr. Burku, he understands the details of the application, and he understands the reversionary requirement you all have to have this thing ready within 12 months. So he's just hoping that the board will support him. The commission.
Okay, now there are, okay, there was,
I think there's a reversion. I think you mentioned something about a reversion, that it will revert back if he doesn't meet the conditions within 12 months.
yes.
He understands that, and he's prepared to meet those conditions.
Okay, he understands the conditions of approval.
Yes, sir.
If it's approved.
If it's approved, indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application, please approach the podium. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and then you would have 2 minutes to make whatever comments you would like, for a total allocated time of 15 minutes for everybody.
Okay, my name is Andrew Griffin Whitaker. I'm hearing impaired, so I've got, I'm reading you off my text screen, so I might go over 2 minutes. This is my first time I've been in this place.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Whitaker. Did you state your address?
1422 Huey Road, Douglasville, Georgia.
Okay, thank you.
On numerous occasions, I have sent Mr. Henry Mitchell's office emails about truck traffic coming down Huey Road, and there seems to be a problem with the Strickland Street, the bridge they put over there. They still got it blocked over a year now, and these trucks are still coming down Huey Road, which is not zoned by the DOT for heavy traffic. And the trucks are going down Strickland Street, which is, they have no lines or nothing on this road, and these folks run off of each other. But the issue with the land, we lived right there. We've been there for 43 years. There was a truck lot that was just installed at 25 acres on McIntosh, right by the railroad tracks, and since they have gone out of business, but there was a complaint filed by me to Russell to zone about contamination of the water runoff into a pond behind our property, which it turned muddy red after they started doing this work. So now we've got another truck lot that's being proposed on industrial access that could increase traffic on Huey Road that could cause problems for the neighbors in Cambridge subdivision and Hunter Bend and other places. Now, in October of 2021, I was almost run over by a Bitamar truck, and I jumped in the ditch and I hurt my shoulder. I'm a disabled senior citizen, and Mr. Mitchell has got the emails, and I've got replies from his office, and it really was like, good day, have a great day, and all this other stuff. So I'm just trying to make sure
residential.
that this.
We have kids stopping at our house bus stops. We have actually, we have cameras all over our house. We have actually tracked these people going 60 miles an hour both ways.
Yep.
One stopped out of his trucker the other day trying to kill him.
So my other concern is with environmental runoff from this property. Now, you've got it listed at 6 acres, and I'm looking at this as this was a trust property from some people, I guess, some children or whatever, and there's like 32 acres back there that they've started bulldozing and clearing property lines. I don't know where the 6 acres comes from, but I've been back there for 40 years, you know, and I hate to say this because I've done it without permission. I hunt back there. We've done it for years. It feeds my family. So I'm not sure where the 6 acres comes in, but there's more than 6 acres back there. The concern is there's the runoff from this property. All right, they're going to put in a 100-year sediment pond, I guess, but the runoff from this has got to go somewhere. It all feeds eventually into Cracker Creek, which in 1971, Young's Oil Refinery was dumping contaminants in that creek, and that area, the soil in that area has been documented as brown soil. So the disturbance of this property, I'm concerned about the water runoff and where this water is going to go. So have we got another truck lot that's going to go out of business?
Each time the trucker comes up and down our road, they put holes in it. Just like over there on Ellis Street. I mean, no 2 vehicles get by. There's been several deaths on Ellis Street since they started this. You cannot have a trucker come down and on the opposite way have another car. It's been impossible.
Okay.
I mean, I have to go in the ditch. I spent $3,000 on my car.
Hold on. I'm a conservative Republican, unfortunately, I guess. And I agree that anybody should have a right to do with their property what they need to do, as long as it doesn't affect other people in the area that might have an issue with it. For years, there's been an EPA violation on Cracker Creek, and Young's Oil Refinery, and now Bitamar. The wells are being tested every 6 months by the EPA, and it all flows downhill. And eventually, it ends up into Pumpkin Vine, I believe. So we need to make sure there's some environmental documents with this, that somebody does something.
There's tires
And,
back there in the creek.
And what I really like to have is Mr. Mitchell come down there and have them barricades taken off of that bridge.
Okay. Time is
I'm sorry.
Time up, okay?
Forgive me, I apologize. I'm just venting here, folks.
Okay, we appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in opposition. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant or of the staff?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the applicant, please. Yes, how many truck spaces are you planning right now? How many places?
Between 25 to 30.
25 to 30 spaces? But you're not going to have any kind of restroom facilities for the truckers to do overnight stays on your property, is that the plan? They're just going to leave their trucks and go?
That's my plan now.
So you're not planning for it to be a truck stop for
No, not a truck stop, just parking.
just parking?
They park, they go home.
And to address your neighbors' concerns about the runoff, I'm sure you'll abide by whatever regulations.
Yeah, for runoff, I just talked to the primary heating, the water, where the water go, the reservoir, which is the plan. I just do based on the county ordinance.
And you plan on paving it, or you're going to use gravel?
Gravel,
Gravel.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I have a question right here.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay, based on this facility that you, parking lot, is it gonna be security? How are you gonna, it's gonna be well lit? How are you gonna have the lighting?
Based on the county requirements, there will be a light, and there will be a security gate, and there'll be a camera too, security camera.
So just to talk about some of the stuff that the neighbor had talked about of you, they said there's already somebody's moving. Have you started doing any work there?
No, nothing.
So it's
I don't know,
no work?
maybe they were talking to the other side, yeah.
Okay.
No,
Different piece of property.
no.
Okay. I just want to clarify that it's not
No.
you doing anything, it's somebody
No, I
else.
didn't do anything,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
I don't have anything else.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners for questions that they may have.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions at this time? Okay, Commissioner Mitchell?
Allison, if you would, please. Can you kind of speak to some of the questions that the gentleman had earlier about, is it 6 acres? How many acres are we speaking of here?
6 acres.
6
Yes, sir.
acres. And we talked about 25, 30 parking trucks, no, just an overnight, no, it's not an overnight stay, it's park and kind of keep it going, nothing overnight. The EPA, we talked about the EPA situation that was spoke about earlier. What, can you help me out in understanding that, or get the general public can understand that side of it?
So was the question about the contaminated stream?
Correct.
It's not something that I'm specifically aware of. We can certainly work with the Water and Sewer Authority. They would be the department within the county that would have agency over enforcing that. As Mr. Johnson had mentioned, this is going to have to go through DRC for a full review. They are going to have to work with the Water and Sewer Authority as well as our engineering department to make sure that they meet all of those best management practices. If there is any impaired stream, I don't believe that was feedback that we got from the Water and Sewer Authority in their impact statement. So I think they would have
Right.
shared that with us if they had any specific
Correct.
concerns about impaired streams in proximity to this use. So I can't speak specifically to that. I don't have knowledge of that impaired stream, other than to say that going forward, they will have to go through DRC, and the Water and Sewer Authority does have oversight, of those kinds of issues as they go through DRC.
Right. And Young Refinery up there, that's out of our control. They've been there for 100 years. And that's just kind of what we got, and that's what that is on that street, correct?
It is. It is a Superfund site, so we have had conversations, with the federal folks about, kind of that site when we've done our kind of larger scan of brownfields work. So it's on our radar, it's on their radar, but you are correct, that is an established use that has been on that property, for many years. It actually also splits jurisdictions between city and county.
Correct.
But it is federal Superfund site, so we are aware, or does qualify, I guess I should say, it's federal Superfund
Right.
site, so we are aware of the issues with that site, yes, sir.
And last but not least, the one that was up by 78, that truck stop, not truck stop, parking. What's the status on that?
The one across from the cemetery?
Yes.
That we had come through. They have come through DRC for review through DRC, the one across from the cemetery. Do you have a status on where they are with that? So I don't believe that they are under construction, but they have submitted plans to DRC to begin that review process.
And the
for
one on
DRC.
McIntosh, the one that's, I guess I'm speaking of maybe, that one on McIntosh right at the tracks. Am I speaking of the right street? Am I? Okay.
So the one on McIntosh was approved by the city a couple of years ago. Further over, when I was at the city, rather,
you all approved the parking
Right.
by the railroad tracks. That was built, it was operational, as apparently it's not functioning right now, is what we just heard. I was unaware of that.
Same
But,
here.
Yeah, you all went through a tremendous meeting when that was approved, because staff actually recommended denial for that one.
Got it, okay.
Back
I didn't know that either. That's why I was trying to figure out, and I guess, not that these guys should, did you guys consider that or look at that? I mean, that was unavailable, I guess, and this is for the applicant. If you go to the podium, if you would, please. I'm just curious, not that you had to, but I'm just curious.
The parking lot over there, there is a sign. I don't see any truck parking there, and I don't see anybody over there.
Okay. Madam Chair, I think that's all of my questions. Thank you again. I appreciate it. And staff, thank you guys. Appreciate it. And I yield back.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. Any other questions, board? Okay, I thanked Commissioner Mitchell, and I asked the board, were there any other questions? But I do have one, and it's a general question regarding the EPA. I'm really concerned on that end when I heard that there was a violation. Cracker Creek, I believe that's the creek that we mentioned. And Allison, if you could just come to the podium. Is that something you would try to pull before, when you have that information available? Because certainly we want to protect the public and also the truckers if they are in that particular area, if there's a problem.
Absolutely, yeah. We would be happy, as a part of the review through DRC, or if that is a condition that you would like to, put on this application, that we understand any, impacts and mitigate, any potential impacts to streams that are already impacted with other, contamination. We would be more than happy to kind of take a look at what that may be in that area. Or if you would like to table this application, we would be happy to kind of go to Water and Sewer Authority and understand better what those issues may be in that area. Again, it wasn't anything that my understanding is they brought to us as a part of their impact statements that they review for all of our zoning applications. So I don't have information on it at this time, but we'll certainly either take it as a condition of zoning if you would like, or we would be happy to table this and bring it back to you at our February meeting.
Okay, thank you. Pumpkin, also was another creek, Pumpkin Creek, is that one? Another creek that was mentioned as well, so it's two that's involved, okay.
Okay, we would scan everything in this area that's potentially an impaired stream. If that is the desire of the Board of Commissioners, we would be glad to scan everything in this area that may potentially be an impaired stream. Understanding what the impairment may be. Is it impaired as a result of industrial runoff? Is it impaired as a result of fecal coliform from wildlife, right? So impaired is a broad category. We would want to make sure that we understood exactly where it was coming from, but if the board would like more information about that, we can certainly provide that.
I would like to see the Code of Federal Regulations and then also the permissible, the PPL, the permissible limits, how, what is the threshold? Because it has to be one out there. Certainly it's the will of the board. I'm not sure if you, Commissioner, this is your district. You would like to table it? Okay, thank you. At this time, thank you for asking that question. We want to table, so I'm going to yield back to you. Okay, wait just 1 minute. I have, Commissioner Robinson has something. I'm so sorry. Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor. Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand how this property is being impacted by something that's been historically here. Like what now? Where was all this concern? And you've got findings, and you go hold hostage this project for 25 parking lots, parking spaces. Sometimes I just listen, and I'm like, what now? This is not 1 million square feet. It's a little bitty project. And I just don't get the context. You said 100 years? You talking about tires and multiple creeks? All he trying to do is grab 6 acres, but we can spot 21 acres for, I'm like, okay, now what now? And it's like, oh, now we're concerned. Now we're concerned about progress. That you choose this project to now be concerned, as if that runoff on that little 6 acres. But I get there's a process after this that will catch this downstream. It's understanding the process. We just want to go through the process of just approvals, like, okay, good, guys, you got a staff, you got a DRC, a very formal process that will catch all this. Why has this got to come back to us? Why do you want to, but I'm just making it the obvious. Like, I mean, process what you're looking at. Like, because again, you should have been caught this. You should have been cleaned this up if you're that concerned. Meaning, I'm talking to the broader county. If you're really concerned about this, then drag them guys in there that's actually causing it. Not somebody who's brand new. Show me that enforcement. All right, I yield. I just want to make the statement, but I'm good. I'll yield to home, but thank you, Madam Chair. I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Mitchell? Commissioner Mitchell, you want to table, is that what you said? Table, home?
I'd love to see kind of where planning and zoning is going, and when we come back to us, then we'll kind of decide.
Okay, thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion on this. Do I have a motion?
May we ask any more questions?
Yes, you may.
I was going to ask the Transportation Department a question regarding Huey Road and when will.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Director
Huey
Reno.
Road, I know trucks have been diverted that way because of the construction on Highway 92. When will that detour be removed so that trucks will no longer be going Huey Road and will stick to the new highway?
Yes, so Highway 92 is actually a GDOT project, and we have noticed a delay, and we're in coordination with them. It's actually due to one of the parties or companies involved that has gone bankrupt that has caused the additional delay. But we're in constant coordination with them, and we're trying to get that detour removed and Highway 92 traffic resolved as soon as possible.
So the county is working with GDOT to remove that detour altogether and get that road opened up fully.
Eventually, when the construction completes, we're trying for full completion of that project, so this could be resolved totally.
So it's in the foreseeable future that the trucks will no longer be going Huey Road? Is that the plan?
Yes, eventually, once the construction is complete, the detour is removed, the traffic will come back to its routine pathway and not be interrupting traffic on Hewitt Road.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Just one, is there a timeline on that?
I don't have a schedule with me today, but I can definitely check on that and get back to you with that.
Okay.
Planning and Zoning Board, anything else, or do I have a motion?
Can I want to talk with Allison from the planning? Yes. It was brought up that if, it's going to take them a while before they get to a certain point. And when they get to a certain point, if it does not meet the requirements, then it could be scratched based on that. I'm just trying to figure this out because we had a crossroad of before just looking at it from what it was to now looking at it for something that was previous that doesn't have anything to do with the person who is actually planning on developing the land currently.
Right, so I think if I understand your question, tonight there was some issues raised about whether there is environmental contamination in the area and if this project would further exacerbate that contamination. I think what staff is trying to say is we don't have any knowledge that there is environmental contamination in that area. If that is an answer that you need more definitively, we can do our due diligence and bring that back to you based on the input that we get from the agencies that actually oversee that and regulate that. They did not provide us that feedback on this application. But we respect that it is a concern raised by the public, and if y'all feel like you need a more definitive answer from the agencies that regulate that, we will certainly, provide that to you if you feel that you need that before you can take action on it. However, if you feel that you are good to move forward on the requests in front of you, I think to speak to the process, they would have to go through Development Review Committee, and at that time, those same agencies would be putting eyes specifically on this request to make sure that any sort of best management practices, would be in place and that this project would be compliant with the code. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And Allison, while you're there, so we could take action on the zoning and then table the special use permit? Or would you rather that they stay together as one?
Again, I don't know that staff feel strongly one way or the other. We are recommending approval of both this evening, and I am happy to read the findings. If we would like to take them one at a time, we would be happy to read the findings, so that you could act on them at your discretion, and it would be up to you. If you wanted to act on one and table the other, or act on them both. I would recommend that you take them as separate items, is typical of our practice. But again, just to clarify, we at the staff level are not recommending any specific conditions. However, if you would like to place a condition on this evening for us to do further investigation into any kind of environmental impairment that may be mitigated as a result of this, we're happy to do that as well.
Will you read those findings?
Yeah, sure
for
thing.
us?
So, in regard to the zoning application Z 2023-03, staff is recommending approval of application Z 2023-03, which is a request to rezone the property from residential low density to a light industrial with the following findings. Number one, the rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. Number two, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan categorization of this property within the workplace center area, incorporating commercial uses. Number three, the uses permissible in the proposed zoning district are generally compatible with the surrounding properties. And number four, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. Would you like me to read both
Ms.
rezoning and special use,
Duncan,
or take that?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If I remember correctly from the presentation Mr. Johnson made, when we looked at this particular 6-acre piece of property on the corner, it is totally surrounded with light industrial. Is it not?
Generally speaking, we have the map up in front of you again. There is a fair amount of light industrial. That's the color that you see in blue. Kind of the lighter yellow color is the residential.
One little
in that
piece
area.
there on the
Right, so there's
left.
one little piece, kind of to the west. Immediate across the street, that's a commercial zoning that's immediately across the street. That was a commercial zoning for an event center that's been in place for several years. But anything that's in the blue category is generally a light industrial zoning classification.
Okay, thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have anything else, or do I have a motion to approve, deny, or table? And we'll take the zoning first.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning 2023-03 with the findings as read by staff. And can we add a condition to follow up with the creek, with the water sewer authority, so that they'll monitor any kind of pollutions that this might create? Would that be a condition, or?
Sure. So I think if I understand your intent properly, when you say monitor, are you wanting that to be ongoing, or we would maybe ask the Water and Sewer Authority as a part of their due diligence through the Development Review Committee that they ascertain any existing environmental impairment and determine, appropriate course of mitigation from this project? Is that?
I guess so.
Okay.
Whatever you said sounded good to me.
Okay.
So is that too cumbersome for the applicant to add that as a condition? Or should the staff just?
Yes.
Would the applicant be in agreement with adding a condition that that WSA and Environmental Protection would follow up on this property to see that it is accessible for this use?
Yes.
If the special, zoning is one thing, special use permit is something else.
Yes. Yes, I will follow what the requirement with water and sewer authorities.
Okay.
Okay? All right,
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote to approve Z 2023-03 with the condition as read into the record. Please signify your approval by raising your right hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners. Z 2023-03, zoning, rezoning from RLD to light industrial has been approved with one condition that the WSA would follow up on the property.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion, but before making my motion, Allison, I think you've reassured us that EPA and Water and Sewer will come through and reassure us that whatever runoff, whatever possible contamination or whatever that is, will be isolated and/or either move the project forward or stop it, correct?
I think the assurance that I can give you is that that is something that would fall under their purview.
Correct, right.
So, and that through our codes and through best management practices, that would be the intent, is to make sure that all of that is followed.
Because the property is actually, where it is absolutely in the right location, the right situation. So I'm going to make a motion to approve item Z 2023-03 as stated with the findings and one condition by the Planning and Zoning Board for approval.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board? Okay, Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So again, the condition we put in here is redundant to what the process of the DRC would already be? Yes or no?
Yes.
I mean, will they check it as a normal function? In other words, why are we putting a condition on someone that naturally our process as a governing authority will catch it downstream?
I feel fairly confident to say that our Water and Sewer Authority does monitor impaired streams, and they stay on top of what that point source may be for impairment. So I feel confident in saying that, again, somewhat on their behalf, because that is not what I'm specifically tasked to do.
I understand, but it's a yes to the question. That it would be redundant.
Yes.
Putting the condition, but okay, I just wanted to clarify. We put burden sometimes on applicants that but our own process will catch it. And he's agreeing to something like, okay, but I get it. I just want to point that out. I yield to home rule. Madam Chair, I give back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Robinson. Board of Commissioners, we have a motion and a second on the floor. When I call your district, please respond accordingly. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries, and I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the result of the rezoning. Do I have a motion on the special use permit? S 2023-04.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve application S 2023-04, request for a special use permit to allow heavy truck parking with the findings as presented by staff.
Corey Curry, second.
I have a, excuse me, I have a motion and I have a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote to approve S 2023-04. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for approval unanimously of S 2023-04, special use permit to allow truck parking facility at this piece of property on McIntosh Road.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item S 2023-04, approval with the said findings and per the planning and zoning for approval.
Do we have a second, Board? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion. Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, just one statement. Again, sometimes as we sit here and we render decisions, it's important that we're rendering it against an objective. There is a need in this county regarding parking for trucks. And again, we can't lose sight of what our role sometimes is to be to enable or disable. and I'm encouraged to hear this perhaps will move forward, even though it's only 25, and I'm sure the need is much, much greater than this. Perhaps it is a good and best use of the land in the area over there for this. I just want to make that statement, Madam Chair, I yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Robinson. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, please respond accordingly. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carry, and I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Best of luck to you on this piece of property. Next agenda item, I believe, Ms. Duncan, you're going to present that one for us.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you. The item that we have here is Z 2023-05. This is a request from the Preserve LLC. This is a request in regard for rezoning to amend the PUD, the Planned Unit Development, regulating documents, and to add an additional property into the boundary. This is for the Wellness Center that is located on Highway 166, Caps Ferry Road, Five Notch Road, and Cantrell Roads. This is in District 4. The application is for approximately 1,224 acres, and again, Commission District 4. I apologize if I didn't say that. In regard to existing conditions, subject property is located south of Highway 166 and west of the Dog River Reservoir, north of the Chattahoochee River, and east of Caps Ferry Road. The combined properties are zoned PUD, which is a planned unit development, and the planned unit development is governed by an overall development plan and overall development standards, along with conditions of approval. This was set forth in Ordinance Z 2020-15. This was adopted June 2nd, 2020. There have been several amendments to that. That includes Ordinance Z 2020-24. That was adopted in August 4th, 2020. Ordinance Z 2021-15, adopted January 5th, 2021. And then Ordinance Z 2022-50. That was adopted June 7th, 2022. This project has broken ground on the farm development area. This area does have access directly from Caps Ferry Road, and the grading of the interior road network and several other sites is underway. The property is still mostly wooded and undeveloped. There are several stream-fed ponds and lakes and single-family residences associated with the site. So this is a summary of the specific requests that were submitted as a part of the applicant's proposal. They propose to incorporate parcel number 00380350013. This is located at 7131 Highway 166. The proposal is to incorporate that parcel into the overall PUD. It's currently zoned residential agricultural. And this is also a request for a PUD amendment to the overall development standards and development plan. They are specifically asking to remove the requirements for the LEED Platinum rating, provide for an updated master plan to remove building placement and add an additional property, revise the road hierarchy and road design standards, revise the parking standards, revise water and sewer design standards, and revise architectural standards to eliminate graphic standard requirements. As we talk through this, I'm going to kind of take each of these in turn and explain where staff is recommending a compromise on a number of these conditions. Here is the overall zoning map of the site. I would point out the parcel that we have identified here in red on this map. That is the parcel that is proposed to be incorporated as a part of the rezoning of this. So this is the 7131 Highway 166 that is proposed to be rezoned from residential agricultural to PUD. And then here's the overall vicinity map showing the general location of the property. So this is the site plan. This is the site plan currently in place by Z 2020-15 as amended by those subsequent applications, as well as the overall master plan as amended. I bring forth these two plans to say that we are recommending that these continue to be the overall site plan and master plan that govern the overall standards of the planned unit development. Here's a street view of the property. This was taken January 2022, but it shows where they have begun clearing on the property, and then you can see the location without the buildings that have gone up. And then here is a image from December 16th of 2022. This is drone imagery showing what is the Phase 1 farm hub, including the warehouse and greenhouse structures on the site. Here is what we call Phase 2 of the farm hub. So this is located up near Cantrell Road of the property, where they have cleared area for farm development off of Cantrell Road. Here is a street view from Caps Ferry Road, showing kind of the main entrance of the spine road off of Caps Ferry Road. And then here is another drone view of the Caps Ferry Road entrance directly across from Rio Grande Trail into the residential neighborhood off of Rio Grande Trail, as well as an overall kind of drone aerial that shows the extent of the grading of the spine road of the project currently. Staff has performed the zoning analysis, and we do generally find that the project is compatible with the zoning criteria with the specific conditions that we are proposing here this evening. So I am going to take these one at a time. I will read them into the record, and I will pause to explain as we are going through what we are proposing. Staff is recommending approval of application Z 2023-05 to rezone parcel 0038-035-0013 at 7131 Highway 166 from RA to be included in the PUD, and to recommend approval of amending conditions to the planned unit development, along with approval of the amendments to the overall development plan and overall development standards as originally detailed in Exhibit 1, authorized April 1st, 2020, with the following findings and conditions. So read the findings. The rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. Number 2, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan categorization of this property as within rural places area, incorporating a lower intensity of residential and commercial development. And number 3, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. As we get into some of these conditions specifically, we'll take them one by one and explain what we are proposing. So again, we are recommending approval with these conditions. The overall development plan and overall development standards that govern the PUD for the preserve is set forth in Z 2020-15 as amended by ordinances Z 2020-24 and Z 2021-15, and all conditions of said ordinances shall continue to be fully in effect except as described below. So number 1, the property at 7131 Highway 166, Douglasville, also described as Land Lot 38, District 3, Section 5, and Parcel 13, shall be zoned PUD and subject to the overall development plan and overall development standards and all zoning conditions that govern the PUD for the preserve. Number 2, references to lead platinum rating shall be removed from the overall development plan and overall development standards that govern the planned unit development for the preserve. Number 3, the map in section 5.1.1, located on page 71, in regard to the water supply system, shall be as depicted on Exhibit 1 and attached to these conditions. So this is the map that I'm showing you here that was included in the staff report, and this was indicated as acceptable by our Water and Sewer Authority. We get to condition number 4. This was language that was specifically requested by our Water and Sewer Authority. So this is in regard to section 5.1.2 on pages 76 through 77 of the overall development plan and overall development standards. That shall be replaced with the following language. 5.1.2, sanitary sewage disposal system. The existing Douglas County sewer lift station located closest to the project site is at Caps Ferry Road near the Chattahoochee River, per the map below. The preserve will connect to the Douglasville, Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority public sewer at its Caps Ferry lift station. This connection will be made by a new gravity trunk sewer line that will extend from near the southern boundary of the preserve property across the Foxhall property along the easement to be dedicated to the authority. The preserve and Foxhall may coordinate in the design and construction of this gravity trunk sewer line to serve the needs of both developments. And then also condition number 5, the map in section 5.1.2 and referenced in condition 4 will be as depicted on Exhibit 2 and attached to these conditions, and that's what you're seeing here now. This is the map that was provided to us by the Water and Sewer Authority. The line that you see outlined in red is the line that the Water and Sewer Authority has constructed, and then the line in pink is what they are proposing as that line to be developed to serve the preserve. So number 6, all existing buildings of the Phase 1 Farm Hub that have received building permits as of January 4th, 2023 shall be completely screened so as to not be visible from the public right-of-way or visible to any adjacent property owners at any time during the year. Screening shall be accomplished through a landscape plan that is submitted to and approved by the Douglas County Arborist. Here is a picture, just for context, that we are sharing of the Farm Hub, what we are proposing as a compromise on the buildings that were constructed, in the green metal there is that they submit a landscape plan to the arborist to screen the metal, which was otherwise not an authorized material at the time that it was constructed, from view by the public right-of-way or adjacent property owners. Number 7, condition number 4 of Z 2022-50 shall be stricken and superseded by condition number 9 of Z 2023-05. And briefly, just to explain that, Previous zoning conditions have given discretion to the Development Review Committee to kind of work with the applicant on any kind of a sort of overall design for the site. We are suggesting that that be taken out. That's the language that you see there in bold. We are suggesting that that condition be removed from a previous approval, and that would be superseded by condition number 9, which I will read here shortly. Condition number 8 says that condition number 5 of Z 2022-50 shall be revised to read, the applicant shall submit to DRC for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the development standards in the aforementioned documents. In the event of conflict or disagreement over the interpretation and application of the provision of these documents, DRC shall defer to the Preserve Project Management Team for interpretation of the relevant provisions of the overall development standards and overall development plan that govern the PUD. So the language that we have underscored there is the change that we're proposing to make. We're proposing to substitute the project management team that we are going to share with you here in a minute for the Development Review Committee in terms of the body that has oversight in interpreting the plan. And so that's what we have here in condition number 9. We are proposing that we will create the Preserve Project Management Team. This is a PMT, as we refer to it. Shall be comprised of a representative of the project owner. So again, we're encouraging that the project owner appoint a project manager, as well as the Douglas County Assistant County Engineer, the Douglas County Chief Building Official, the Douglas County Deputy Director of Transportation, Douglas County Planning and Zoning Manager, and the Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority Deputy Director of Engineering. So this project management team shall meet at least monthly. Scheduled meetings can be modified by written agreement of both Douglas County and the Preserve Project Manager, including discontinuing PMT meetings at such a time as they are no longer deemed necessary. A record of any discussion and decisions shall be kept as a part of the project file. So again, we are proposing that this is a body that be created to kind of help steward this project through the process, to give an outlet for sort of those creative discussions that need to take place before the project goes back to DRC for kind of review and approval of any of their site plans. And then we are also proposing that the project management team have the discretion to review and interpret the provisions of the Unified Development Code, the overall development standards, and the overall development plan regulating plan, and the overall development plan graphics package. But in the event of conflict or disagreement, so again, if there's conflict or disagreement over the interpretation of the application of these provisions, the project management team shall defer to the Director of Development Services for interpretation. The Douglas County Director of Development Services shall have discretion to grant administrative variances or modification to achieve the desired outcomes of the UDC, the overall development plan, and the overall development standards to maintain the public health, safety, and welfare. In the event of conflict or disagreement over the discretion to grant administrative variance, or if they otherwise feel unable to achieve the desired outcomes of the UDC, the Director of Development Services shall have discretion to direct staff to schedule the zoning action to be returned to the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners to consider the zoning amendment to the overall development standards and the overall development plan at the next regular scheduled zoning hearing. So again, just want to back up and say what we're proposing with conditions 9 and 10 is to create sort of an additional level of relief through this process, so that right now the project goes through Development Review Committee. If they can't get squared away on outcomes, they come straight back to the board, right? What we're proposing is creating a project management team, which is a level of administrative staff that doesn't always sit on DRC, to give the opportunity for that kind of creative dialogue to kind of flesh out some of these issues. And then we're also asking for a fair amount of discretion to be given to the Director of Development Services to weigh in on any administrative variances that may need to happen before they come back to the board. So we recognize that that's a lot of discretion we're asking for, and we look forward to any discussion that we need to have with you on that. Here I'm going to pause and ask my colleague in Transportation, Suleiman Rana, to come up and talk through condition number 11 as it relates specifically to the road design standards. Suleiman doesn't mind speaking to this.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
So these are the conditions that DOT has recommended. The first one, or section 4.3 of the application shall be amended with the revised relevant transportation sections submitted as a part of Z 2023-05 and included here as Exhibit 3 to be amended as follows. Zoning conditions imposed on March 2nd, 2021 and approved by Douglas County Board of Commissioners and ordinance number Z 2021-15 remain in place and unchanged unless specifically defined in the comments outlined below in the addendums to the overall development plan with overall development standards dated December 5th, 2022. Selected roadway segments defined in condition 11-C shall be constructed to the county residential collector standards. Those limits are listed on the slide, and I'll read them as we go, but I'd like to move on to the next slide that shows a graphical view of those roads. So the limits of the proposed paved or collector roads are number 1, from Caps Ferry to 5 Notch Road. This is actually the road that we just saw an image of that starts off of Caps Ferry and runs all the way up to 5 Notch. Second is from the traffic circle to Farm Hub Warehouse. This is actually the frontage road parallel to Caps Ferry. We're proposing that we pave the roadway segment between the roundabout, proposed roundabout, to the parking up north and a farmhouse down south of that roundabout. The fourth is from the entrance road B5 to the traffic circle. This is where the road labeled B5 comes in, and this basically connects road B1 that turns towards 5 Notch towards the segment that's coming off of Highway 166, and lastly from Highway 166 to the traffic circle or the roundabout proposed. So these are the 5 segments that we have identified that will serve as collector roads for this development and will be pivotal for accessibility and serviceability of this development, and that's why we recommend that those be paved per the collector standards of our county standards. Moving on, the intersection of the 5 Notch Road and from here onwards are some of the inconsistencies that we've identified in the application, and that is what a few of these conditions will deal with. The intersection of 5 Notch and the proposed collector road does not meet the required intersection side distance for a 35 miles per hour roadway. Improvements shall be made to meet or exceed the intersection side distance ISD or consideration of a traffic roundabout per DCDOT specifications can be used as an alternate. Any additional right-of-way required to construct the traffic roundabout or circle shall be the responsibility of the developer. Revise the typical section for private collector to match county residential standards with 24-foot wide roadway with curb and gutter, with 2 foot of green strip and 5 foot of sidewalk or pathway. Remove all notes on typical sections that state asphalt paved roads. Sections, locations vary per developer discretion. Modify language in private collector table identifying limit as shown. These are the limits that we just saw in the graphic and the condition 11-C. And insert those limits provided by DCDOT above and remove development internal locations from the table. On page 66 of the addendum, it does not comply with the typical section width of a private local street that is proposed within the same application. Revise all private local streets to the 36-foot wide corridor with the 20-foot roadbed. On the private local street typical section, remove the note of pervious surface road selection locations vary per developer discretion or selection. On the private local street table, remove the surface material. Pedestrian and bicycle pathway for that typical, place a note to read pedestrian and bicycle pathway off-road path. And lastly, number 12 is pedestrian and bicycle typical section, pathway typical section must show 4 inches of GAB base with a 2 inches of earthen trail finish grade. This is the map that we used for our review, and this was submitted with the application. What's the blue and red? Map.
Can't talk.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And these are few attachments that are again part of the application. These are the typical sections and the geometric information of these collectors or local streets. And some of the comments that were about notes and the thickness of the typical sections, these relate to these specific images that are attached here. And we can return to these if you all have any questions. And lastly, the revised map for parking locations shall be accepted for section 4.4.3 and is included here as Exhibit 4. The text of section 4.4.3 shall remain as originally approved in Z 2020-15. And here's the map of that parking that was submitted. That is the end of our conditions, and I'm available for any questions.
Ms. Duncan, does that complete the report?
Yes, sir. That completes the staff recommendation. I just want to acknowledge that is a lot to take in, so thank you for your patience. But as you know, it is our practice to read everything into the record so that we have that on the record. We look forward to the discussion. We also look forward to hearing the response from the applicant, and I may respectfully suggest that it may be worth giving the applicant a bit longer to present in order to accomplish all that they need to accomplish in speaking to that. But again, we're happy to answer any questions you may have. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, please approach the podium. Mr. Fowler, we will give you a little extra time on this, about 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. That's perfect. Joe
Thank
Fowler,
you.
Post Office Box 49 in Douglasville. Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to introduce Vijay here and Gopi, who are principals of Preserve Life. They made a great deal of progress. County officials and staff are welcome to observe where things now stand on the site, and so far what the plans reflect for the future of this wellness project. The word typical was used a lot with respect to condition number 11, and this project is everything but typical, and I'll get into that in just a moment. Over the 2+ years since the board approved the project and Preserve Life began to shift the project from design to reality, it became very clear that this is not a typical one-size-fits-all effort, and some flexibility needed to be built into what has really become the nuts and bolts of the approval process that accounts for the application that you have before you tonight. 2 of the applications were to add first 17 acres on Capps Ferry and then another 66 acres on Capps Ferry, and that then resulted in another application because we had to deal with roadway issues. The staff has proposed the idea of the project management team to provide that flexibility, and we absolutely appreciate that suggestion. I found myself and Vijay and Gopi and others on behalf of Preserve Life have been meeting with staff a lot and others other than just planning and zoning staff, and we believe this is a great resolution to what we need. That is, we need some flexibility. Now, you heard in detail the total of the 12 conditions. Those are on pages 12 to 14 of your report. We have been over those with the staff, been over them internally, and we consent to conditions 1 through 10 and number 12. We've worked diligently with the staff, and we believe these are workable changes to the master plan. In other words, we took our application that we filed a month or more ago. We met with staff, and we've sort of put it all into a machine and worked it out. And conditions 1 through 10 are fine. So is number 12. We have serious problems, however, with respect to number 11. We respectfully but strongly oppose number 11, which are the conditions that you read from the DOT. These would require Preserve Life to build roads within this project. It's almost like a resort wellness center. We are required to build the roads in the project to conform to the county's minimum standards, and that is not at all what's been proposed. These are all internally private roads, and it's our intention, with the county's permission, you tonight, to leave it as private roads. Foxhall, for example, is an indication of where a lot of the roads are graveled roads, and that's our intention as well, but we require your permission to do that. We don't need roadways here that meet those typical sections that accommodate 10,000 trips per day And here are 4 technical but specific reasons. After the rather short entrances off Highway 166 and Caps Ferry, that's where there are facilities that are open to the public and which will be built to county DOT specifications. We can, if you're interested, at some point we could show you drawings of what is specifically now worked out with respect to those public areas. Everything else internally, all the streets in the entire project are private roads that Preserve Life will have to maintain in perpetuity. They are designed specifically and intentionally to be constructed with pervious, not impervious surfaces. That is what we have been preparing from the very beginning. In fact, when we presented the project over 2 years ago, you may recall that on behalf of VJ and Gopi, we stated very clearly that the roads would be private internally, not on 166, not on Caps Ferry, though that came in the second application. All of them would be private and pervious to be maintained not by the county, but by the developer. There was, I will concede, a mistaken reference in the original overall development plan and standards that referred to paving, gutters, and curbing, but that should have been limited to the public components on the 2 entrances. We have clarified that with respect to the filing that you have before you tonight. We didn't make it clear. That's what we're trying to resolve. Secondly, pervious roadways constructed like this meet the environmental and healthcare goals that are very distinctive aspects of this entire development for a number of reasons. For example, pervious roads help rainwater infiltrate into the soil so it does not run off to go into curbing, to then go through pipes to get into detention facilities. This way, the roadways through ditches allow stormwater to proceed naturally. It infiltrates into the soil. Furthermore, pervious roadways decrease urban heating. Other things they do, they replenish groundwater, they reduce flash flooding, and they efficiently manage stormwater. They reduce the concentration of pollutants physically, chemically, and biologically. I will note this, as I alluded to a moment ago, other private roads in the county are permitted to be exempt from the massive DOT standards that you heard read by the director a moment ago, all of that paragraph number 11. Foxhall is one of them, as are certain subdivisions that can be gravelled and thus exempt from the DOT. What we propose for the roads is on what you have before you in pages 16 to 20. You saw that on the board a bit earlier, and we request that a reference to those pages, pages 16 to 20, be substituted for paragraph number 11. Our application tonight seeks the clarification that these private roads may be built as provided on pages 16 to 20. So if you are disposed to approve conditions 1 through 10, we're perfectly great with that. Thanks to Allison and the rest of the staff for working with us on that. Number 12 is great, but on number 11, we respectfully request that we can maintain the vision that VJ had when all this started 2 years ago, and we have been working like crazy to accomplish. We simply want to maintain the overall goal. In conclusion, we very much appreciate the working relationship that we have with this board, and that board, and with your staff, and we ask you to grant the conditions 1 through 10 and 12, but then modify 11 as I have just described on those items mentioned on pages 16 to 20. Thank you for the enlarged time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Anyone else wishing to speak in to approve this application? Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You would have 2 minutes.
Billy Mayhew. I live at 6650 Old Ferry Court, and I'm just a few miles from this development. I also known the family for many years, and Gopi's grandmother for probably 10 years, so great family. I built a house 17 years ago on Old Ferry Court, which is a private road, and it's all impervious surface, and it works great. My house sits right on the Chattahoochee River. On one side, the other side is Bear Creek, so it does meet all the standards of, but it doesn't have so much runoff. If we had curbed and guttered our road, we would be running water very rapidly down to the creek. It just creates more. So anyway, I'm all for, and Chestatee Farms, I wasn't planning on saying anything, so I apologize. But Chestatee Farms here in Douglas County is one of mine and my wife's favorite subdivisions. We didn't build there because we built where we are, but it has no gutters and no curbing in the subdivision. It's been there over 25 years, and it's one of the most beautiful subdivisions in the county, and it is public roads. So therefore, I'm a proponent of, if it's large enough area and in enough land, it's much better to not have to have curb and gutter where you run a lot of water through pipes that go down, and water, as you know, when it goes, it can create all kinds of havoc. And I appreciate the truck parking, because there's trucks parking on Highway 166 all the time because there's no place for them to park. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayhew. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes. State your name and address for the record
Vijay
first.
Kumar, 7131 Highway 166. I'm one of the promoters of the project. And what I would like to submit here and how we have kind of changing our process from the past 2 years is we've been in touch with many architects worldwide as well as within the United States. And what we found is we are kind of, advised and kind of handheld by them to change some of our original thinking and also to bring the right look and feel which could last there forever, like how Bill explained. And the second thing is sustainability is one of the most important aspects of our campus, and whatever modifications we requested for on the DOT recommendations is part of that. Apart from that, we also have seen not only neighborhoods and large developments which have implemented what we have requested here, and they've been functioning very well. And in a nutshell, what we have requested here from the previous approval is to remove paved roads and curb and gutter on our streets. Rest all would remain the same, the width and depth, everything will remain the same. And these are all internal and these are all private roads. And whatever has come for approval right now, it's all internal to the project and nothing concerned with the external or anything to do with the neighborhood. So I just want to state that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing no one moving, we'll close the public hearing in favor. Did you wish to speak in favor? Prior one is closed, and that decision's been made. We're talking about this particular application now, ma'am. Anyone, I will close the public hearing in favor. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record. You would have 2 minutes per person. Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. Do I have any questions of staff or the applicant or the applicant's representative?
The applicant, or Mr. Fowler, Attorney Fowler can speak. Just trying to, some of us are new to the board, and just trying to figure out some of the things that's going to be on this facility that they're proposing. Could you just give us like a few?
How about if I have Gopi do that, Mr. Curry?
That's fine.
Hey, good evening, sir. How are you? Would you like an overview of the... I'm sorry, my name is Gopi, living at 7131 Highway 166. one of the owners of the project. Would you like a overview of the project?
Just a quick, it's just about a minute long, you know? If you can do it that long. I know they was talking about a lot of stuff during the process of this. And actually, when I was looking at the plans, you know, it was so unique. But, you know, just trying to look at that and kind of understand what you're planning on building there, I think some people might want to know that.
Absolutely. So we're Preserve Life, and we are just north of 1,200 acres. As Mr. Fowler has mentioned, it's going to be a wellness center. We're not a hotel. We're not a spa. We're not a rehab facility. We're a wellness center, more of preventive medicine, if you want to call it. We would house 100 corporations across 30 nations in this campus to own a home and do a 9-day-long program with us for various treatments across the board for the human body, mind, and soul. We would also house 100 acres of organic farming in addition to an experienced kitchen off of Caps Ferry open to the public. That's about 20 seconds. I'd love to talk to you for an hour if you have more time.
That's fine. You kind of gave us an overview, and because I'm trying to look at the situation when we're talking about the roads and kind of understanding that, you know.
Absolutely. So when we talk about the roads, everything in the campus, for those individuals who are a part of the program, they're not allowed to leave the campus when they're in the campus. They're going to do the program, and they stay within the boundary of the campus, other than the 2 locations where we have public buildings, access like a nutrition kitchen or a commercial center, but nobody's allowed to come in and out. We don't have daily traffic out of the campus unless someone is checking in or checking out. So in that 9-day program, that person is staying in the campus for 9 days, if that clarifies.
Okay.
Correct, and we are completely electric. We encourage electric cars all throughout the campus when we open in 25.
So it's going to be totally electric?
When we open in 25.
When you open it up?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so there won't be no motorized vehicles, gasoline vehicles in there unless it has to be fire, police, or something coming in there?
Correct, so we encourage 100% electric. For the individuals staying on the campus, it could be golf carts, it could be Tesla cars, it could be any sort of electric is what we encourage, and we highly promote electric vehicles in the campus.
Okay, okay. Go ahead.
No, but Joe wanted to talk about greenhouses, and you're welcome to come down to Caps Ferry and see what we're doing in terms of organic produce farming. So.
Okay. I just wanted to because I'm kind of new and just hearing them talk about it previously, just wanted to make sure that everybody in here understood what this was going to look like or what it looked like. Because when I saw it on the screen, it was like, okay, this is something new, and I know that some of the things that you're bringing is something going to be new that we haven't seen in this area, and just want to make sure we get that brought out. I'll go ahead to somebody else.
Very good. Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you folks may have.
All right, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, we have any questions for the applicant, for the staff?
I do, Madam Chair.
Commissioner. Madam Vice Chairman, you have the floor.
Allison, if you'll come to the podium, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I heard Attorney Fowler allude to not accepting condition number 11. Explain to us why condition number 11 is there for the public and for the general knowledge.
Okay. If I could, I would defer to my colleague in Transportation, Director Rana, to speak to transportation conditions.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening.
Madam Vice Chair. So basically, this is the development reviews or any development that happens within the county. We review that and we interpret the UDC or the county standards and provide recommendations accordingly. This specific development is proposing, it's a significantly large development within the county, and of course we have 2 access points from Highway 66 and Caps Ferry. It is our general practice that for roadway classifications such as collector, we ask that those be paved for various reasons. For when the public is using those, it really helps with accessibility and helps ensure that they get smooth access to these facilities and developments. Secondly, county provides various services to these developments, and to be able to successfully deliver those services and improve our response times, we ensure that these facilities are easily accessible, and that's what these paved roads are doing. In our recommendation, we were specific with those segments that will prove to be pivotal in terms of accessibility to this development, and that is why we're recommending that these segments be paved. Along with some other recommendations, those were some inconsistencies that we identified in the application.
So from what I hear you saying, you want to make sure that the county, if having to access it through the fire department or other large vehicles like that, that we will be able to do so without any problems.
That's correct.
You have to make it plain for me. So, okay. How much paving are we talking about? Do you know off the top of your head?
So overall, I anticipate about 4 to 5 miles of paved roads that we're proposing, and that's just the red lines that we showed on that exhibit in the PowerPoints. Now, there are various other roads that are going to be local streets that we're fine with being unpaved.
Unpaved. So 4 to 5 miles. Those are the public access roads, again, mainly to ensure that, if needed, emergency vehicles and others can access it.
Right. Those would be the access roads, and I do hear that they are not public roads, they are private roads.
They're private
So,
roads,
but
okay.
still, county or any of the, I would say, customers or patients of the facility will eventually have to use those roads. So, yeah, that's why.
Okay. Can you pull it back up so I can see it again?
Yes. So this is Exhibit 3A. Red lines are what we're proposing to be paved. We have the road names labeled, and the sign P stands for parkings that are proposed on this facility.
And how big is the facility? I heard you say 45 miles of paved road out of, how big is this? Do you know?
As far as
1,200 acres, okay. So can you tell me if we decide to take out condition number 11, what would be the alternative? Just to leave it as is? What they're proposing? Like what would be the negative of that?
Yes. So if condition 11 basically covers our initial review of the whole development, that not only takes away the paved roads, but the intersection side distance that relates to safety of these intersections, that goes away. And then with these unpaved roads for such long segments of connecting roadways or roadway segments, if these are unpaved, there is no striping, and potentially could become a safety issue too. And that is why we recommend that these be implemented. And this is simply just an act of consistency from our side that we have applied or recommended to most of these developments that have come by our review process.
So the ones that were brought up that I noticed Mr. Fowler and the other applicant brought up, those were different conditions, or whereas we may have allowed for pavement not to have taken place.
Yes. So basically, we still anticipate public use. We still anticipate county services for this development. And for those reasons, we believe that it's important we have at least the few segments that were recommended be paved.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I don't know if you can answer this one. Why are we removing the LEED standards?
I'll refer to Alan.
Okay.
So removing the LEED certification standards was the request of the developer. They had put that in the original approval plan. Currently, the county has no requirement for anybody to obtain LEED or any other kind of performance evaluation system. So it was their choice to include it. It was a voluntary action on their part. It's their request to remove it. Because we have no reason or authority under the Unified Development Code to require it, we are not raising an objection to their request to remove it because it is a voluntary program.
So I will ask the applicant then, why are you requesting to remove it? I know it wasn't in your original application, but of course, LEED standards are good, so.
With respect to the LEED certification, as was noted, they're dealing with architects all around the world. The architects have looked at alternatives to those standards that are equally good. I can't explain it, but that's the answer. May?
Yeah, sure.
And if I also may respond to the question about the roadway network, if I may, Mr. Chairman, or Mr.
With the LEED standards, it's voluntary that some of the architects that we work with, some of their standards are above and beyond LEED. It's just a term that was included in the original plan that was drafted by AECOM 3 years ago. We don't want to hold just to the LEED or to LEED. That's why we're just removing it. We're pulling back, and we're doing everything we can sustainably, which some of that is more than LEED. If that makes sense.
Okay. And yes, you can answer the question about number 11.
With respect to the roads are gravel roads, and they will be designed to accommodate emergency facilities. We're going to be selling houses to persons who will buy on those gravel roads, and they want to be assured that if somebody has a medical emergency, they can get access. If you were to see the drawing again that shows all the road network, it's on here but not there. That 5 miles goes right through the heart of this, thank you, right through the heart of the project in 2 particular dimensions. And that's where these houses are going to be. These are going to be gated roads. If there's an emergency vehicle can access that entire way, but they want those to be unpaved. They're going to be maintained by Foxhall roads are be maintained by Foxhall as they are now, but Preserve Life maintains these roads that are gated. So once you leave the Caps Ferry area, where you see Caps Ferry and the internal road network begin on the southwest corner of that map, there'll be a gate there, and it'll go all the way up to 166, where there'll be a gate there after a public section. They'll be maintained, emergency vehicles can get on them, and we think that satisfies any concerns the county may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
I saw the eyes of Commissioner Alvarez first. Commissioner Robinson. You have the floor, Commissioner Alvarez.
Solomon. I know, obviously being the District 4 Commissioner, there's a lot of rural roads in District 4 that are unpaved. A lot of family roads, general roads, and then looking at this, noticing that Foxhall is right across the roadway from this is also unpaved. Those roadways have withstood the test of time, some of them. I've seen some of them since I was a youngster, still there, that are accessible or able to be accessible through our fire and EMS. If these roads, and I'll have a question for the applicant here in a moment, if these roads are private roads inside those gates and they're maintained by the applicant, has there been anything, or have we seen anything in Douglas County, in any part of Douglas County, where any of our roads that are not paved have become an issue?
Commissioner, so as it relates to other developments that have unpaved roads, I've looked at the Foxhall, and those were done back in 2009. I'm not fully aware of the circumstances and the recommendations that were put forward, but as of right now, our code UDC suggests that regardless of it being a public or a private road, we, per UDC, require it to be maintained or developed up to the county standards. In this case, we're doing the same thing. The section that suggests or that we enforce through these recommendations allows for any deviation from that section, but that would be as a part of the PUD approval with condition, allowing them to do something otherwise. And that is why we're having those recommendations. As far as the other unpaved roads go, I have seen some efforts recently by the department, our DOT, to spend county dollars on those roads to bring them up to the county standards by making them paved roads. We are currently working on that, and we were recently awarded some dollars for that effort for year 2023. So we will be working on paving those few unpaved roads that we currently have. So that is why, part of the UDC and our historical situation going forward, or where we are, we're recommending all the roads to be paved, just so you know, the county can provide its services to the fullest.
Okay. All right, now I got a question for the applicant. Mr. Feller?
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Understanding that from when I was told about your project, that this is going to be a private property.
Yes, sir.
The applicant's private property. Would the applicant be open to just inspections, certain inspections throughout to inspect the roads for our fire and EMS if they was to come down to want to inspect to make sure that if they had to access those roads, that those roads are in good standings?
I'm sure they will. They're already talking to the fire marshal about issues concerning those types of things. Let me just ask Gopi or Vijay.
Commissioner Mark, we were talking with Fire Chief Jay. I thought I saw him in the room, and we will consult with them before we actually finish paving these roads, finish gravel, finishing these roads to grade, and we're in consulting with them how their fire truck would come on there and everything like that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Just one point that was mentioned by the director a moment ago. The PUD allows ordinance requirements under the UDC to be varied. That's the unique thing about the PUD. In fact, this was the first PUD that was adopted under the new ordinance. So the variations are permitted, and that's why we've proposed the alternative to paragraph 11.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have one last
Yes, sir.
comment to make for the board. We are not asking for any change of width or narrowing the roads in any way. It is the same that we have always asked for in the original zoning of April 1st, 2020. So we're not making it smaller or narrower. It's the exact same width. We just want to leave it gravel to the standards of the fire and ambulance.
Okay. I'm done, Jim. Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Yield
back. Okay. Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so various perspectives on this. Again, I look for two things: consistency, but also open-mindedness. Back to the vice chairman's point regarding leads. Everything is not a cookie cutter. Some things are beyond that the earth does bend. That's beyond what we're normally used to. It's important that we also are able to see beyond what's always what we're used to. Your familiarity, your comfort zone. That's all I've ever seen. Did you know there may be uranium, plutonium? You may be just used to carbon, but by the way, there are other elements, design elements in this case, that you should consider. So I'm glad you guys worked through all that. I don't have to, we can only focus on transportation, but I want to acknowledge that. Well done that y'all worked through that. Right, sometimes like, right, y'all on the other side of the earth. I get it. All right, so let's talk about transportation. And again, 5 miles, good point brought out. And again, I get what's public is public, up to the public park with the farm, the two, you just got it. But the rest of it is private. And we're extending, and I get the standard, but the spirit of is all electrical. And this is where I'm like, okay, so my transportation, it's like we're having federal conversations about electrical vehicles and creating atmospheres and infrastructure and stuff, but yet here we are, we're not, here's the very project that's trying to, hey, look, we are a standard for that allows that to deal with the atmosphere. But I know at the end of the day, all you can do is put it forth, but at the end, it's up to these boards to make the final decision. The question is, can we see it? Will we allow it? I appreciate somebody who's grew up 100 years in an area that, like, well, we got roads, they've survived the test of time. Right. Right? This is not massive passageway. This is like a resort. I heard holistic meditation. I'm sure there's some things like that. This ain't no, Aerotropolis hotel place. Right? This is intentional. Corporate. Did y'all listen to who's going to be the clients? They're going to roll in, do what they got to do, and roll out. Yeah, we can come buy some very, sounds like we can buy some organic stuff that's healthy for you. Sounds good, but I'm just looking for, okay, it's a little bit different. Sometimes our code has a cookie cutter, everything's got to be the same. But I get it, but every now and then we got to open our eyes to see what are we looking at. Now, get the safety thing. Now, y'all got to make sure, Mr. Fowler, the attorney, y'all make sure that now that truck come through there, that hill better work, or I'm going to have an issue. I'll give room for that. But that $1 million truck better be able to get through that, and if your hills are so steep that my truck gets stuck, that's an issue. So give me assurance that you got the compromise as the incline. So you can meet everybody both ways. Right? So I need to hear that assurance. That's my only issue. I know you got off-terrain vehicles. I've seen canyon work. I've seen all types of stuff. We can get to certain things. But if something happens, and again, it may not be that often. I'm not going to get into probabilities and all that. I can be here all night for that. I just want, and that's my one question I have to say, okay, I got it. Normal 4x4 Tahoes will definitely be able to get up over the hill. We get it. My ambulances probably should get over the hill. But that fire truck, I need assurance that the very nice fire trucks that we done bought, I want to know, can they not go get stuck? Like, I've had that, like, I get it now. I don't want to talk outside because I'm not rural. I'm urban. I'm east side. But I need you to meet us halfway on that one provision. I get it. I just heard you say you're going to have gates. Like, okay, when you stop here at the public, all right, public stay over here. All your gas cards, you stop here, but everything else in here is electrical and everything else. When it's all gravel, I need assurance for everything that's not that 5 miles that you said in both entrances, that my fire trucks are going to be able to do that. Can you give me assurance regarding that incline, that we can make that threshold? I'll yield. I want to hear the answer.
So, Commissioner Robinson, we are working, like I mentioned, with the fire chief, and when you mentioned the gates, we have the requirement for the fire department to have the SES code for the gates, and when a fire truck does pull up, it would open automatically, and the roads are wider than what the fire truck needs, which is 20 feet. So we're already wider than that, so we'll be fine. And we are constantly working with the fire department to make sure that they have no trouble to come through these roads when it's actually done and finished.
Okay, so there's a difference between width. You're not answering my question. That's width. I'm talking about incline.
All the inclines we have are less than 10%.
Okay, that's what I mean, but I just want my question answered. I didn't want to talk about widths. I want to talk about incline, and I didn't want my truck to get stuck, not run into something. Listen to my words. Hear me, work with me. All right, so that's what I was looking for, just that one part right there. I'll yield respectfully my peers in home rule, et cetera. I understand what I'm looking at. I can hear what I'm listening for. And again, you worked through the other, it looks like you've been working pretty hard at that. I do want to acknowledge the project management. That's something that I've been advocating for quite some time for these large projects that you got it. Thank you. Managing Director Worthington and Allison and all your team, that is important to be able to work through some of these issues. That you don't just drop this on the board, that sometimes that you work through it. It's a one-off. We ain't gonna have too many of these, and we want to see them manifest in our lifetime. I mean, I ain't seen 2 yet in 15 years. I'd like to see them come to pass one day. So I'm not concerned about the fact that it's a little bit nuanced and you're doing a little bit different, and we're giving you authority to move through this. Your authority would only be for this project. For this project, not for everything. I want to make sure that clear, that for the record, that it's only for this project if the boards so choose to do it. That's all I had to say, Madam Chair. I yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Robinson. Madam Vice Chair Carthen, you have the floor.
Thank you. Director Suleiman. Have you discussed with the applicant the possibility of doing the pavement without curb and gutter?
We have not.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you entertain pavement without curb and gutter as a
Respectful-
compromise?
Pardon me. Respectfully, no. We want the pervious surfaces to deal with the stormwater. That's the way it's accomplished, we think, most handily and effectively.
So on one end, I totally understand that. I get it, and that's why I'm torn. I love the idea. Love what you all are absolutely doing.
Thank you.
I think it's absolutely beautiful. But on the other hand, there is a reason why we need the pavement. There is a reason why we put it in our UDC. And so the curb and gutter would, if we take that away, I think that that would give us the compromise of both, right? It would give us the pavement through there, right, for safety,
Yeah, I
you
can see
know.
right here, yes, ma'am.
But the runoff would be the dirt roads, the dirt on the side. You wouldn't have what the other gentleman, Mr. Billy Mayhew, talked about, right? And that's what chastity is
It
like. So I think that would be, I would like to see that. You can say no, but then
I
you know.
respectfully say no. On behalf of the client, who wants to speak up?
Okay.
I just have a comment to add to that, ma'am. There's a reason for it, and the reason why we want to leave it gravel is to be with nature. This project is about nature, and it's about being with Mother Nature, and we get that without having the asphalt there. And that's what we want to do, is we want to be with nature, and that's what we're providing with the product, with the wellness center, with the program, is to be with nature, and a big part of that is for the roads to remain gravel.
And I totally get that, and I understand that, and I'm with you all the way. Like I said, I think the project is great, but we have standards, and if we deviate from them for specific reasons, even this is trust me, I am on the fence. I want to deviate, but then again, I know why my directors are after what they're after, and as a commissioner, I want to stand with them. Right, because they're not only protecting your welfare, but they're protecting the welfare of others who are going to move there, and they are also protecting the welfare of those who may have to service them. So I get your request. I don't want you to think I don't. I don't want you to think the project is not great. I love it, but I also have to stand on my principles.
I understand.
So don't take it personally.
Thank
But thank you.
Any other remarks, board? Commissioner?
Yeah, just real quick,
Robson.
I want to bring balance. When we talk about parks, think about Boundary Waters. Those who are disabled, and we're able to walk on gravel, and some of it, we have a paved little area in which we can go, but it ain't everywhere. Because there's horses and everything else that has to come through there. It's a coexistence. It's about coexistence. And so there lies the compromise, and depends on how y'all gonna have to figure out what y'all are gonna agree to, and these boards are. But it's like, okay, but we're inconsistent. Now look at that standard. We didn't make it go all the way around the park. We stopped short. That means I gotta go and turn around in my wheelchair, just like these cars. But I get it. If somebody gets stranded and stuff, they'll get up there and get them if they need to. We're looking for I'm looking for the assurance that, okay, can you meet the minimum threshold? Because what I heard y'all say is that, but at the end of the day, it's up to the board. We're the ones that grant. Their powers with our decision-making. We hear your recommendation, and we hear their request. The question is, and that's why it's a democracy, that everybody has to step back. All right, what do y'all all see? Weigh in. It'll be what it's about to be. So I won't belabor this point, but I just wanted to make, I get it. Again, I look for the consistency. I look for the different areas, other things like, but there are some people that still want to stay rural and stay on gravel. And so and we're talking about private property, right? So there's a burden there. And so we're trying to balance it, and I get it. And it's, do we allow it? I think it's a one-off that the board should be able to work through and stuff, and should, again, this is new, this is innovative, this is something that, well, again, there's a lot of stuff to go on people's property that we don't know about. Excuse me, guys. All right, so I'm just trying to make this point so y'all can hear this. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. But at the same point, it's one of those like, take a position. Madam Chair, I yield.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, board? I just wanted to add, certainly I believe, if you could, Attorney Fowler, come back to the podium. I believe you said if there was a modification to 11, that the provisions on page 16 through 20 would substitute
Yes,
for
ma'am.
11. Okay. And that was basically the gravel roads. Is that what was in
Yes, ma'am.
pages 16 and 20? And this, the intent is natural, organic state, right? That's
Yes, ma'am.
That's the
Absolutely.
intent. And the gravel roads, no, I'm sorry, if we pave the roads, there is also a pro and a con to that as well. If there's ice, snow, and things like that, that we still will have a dilemma. I'm not sure if there's better traction on ice and snow with gravel roads versus paved, particularly since it's private. So you answered my questions. I just wanted to make sure that substitute between those provisions. How many, is it too lengthy to read the provisions in pages 16 to 20? Is it quite?
They're mostly pictures. If we can get Allison to put them up on the board.
I tried to take some notes when you were speaking, Attorney Fowler.
It's section 4.35, street sections that you see on the board before you. It's pages 16 through 20 of the package that you have from the staff recommendations. Those have been prepared by our engineer who did this in response to the county's request. And I will say, with respect to what if I may comment on what Commissioner Robinson said, the project management team exists to help us work through these issues. And with respect to the slope, even though none of the slopes are more than 10%, if that's a concern to the project management team, they will come up there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion. Do I have a motion? Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion? Okay, hearing no motion from Planning and Zoning Board, Madam Chairman, it comes to you with no recommendation from Planning and Zoning.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman
Z
Simmons.
2023-05.
Okay, thank you. Board of Commissioners, certainly you've heard all the answers and the questions and answers on Z 2023-05. Do we have a motion?
Really quickly, Madam Chair, point of order. For either the county attorney or Allison Duncan, we've got a new commissioner here. Can you explain what happens in these moments when the Planning and Zoning Board is unable, for whatever reason, to make a recommendation? Can y'all weigh in on this for education purposes, please?
I believe Attorney Coleman has stepped away. If you would like to
Somebody got to answer the question,
pause for a
guys.
moment for him to step back into the room, we can confer with Attorney Coleman, if that would be the will of the board.
Can somebody else answer it in the steed? I mean, does anybody, I know the answer, but I shouldn't have to answer it.
I mean, so again, the zoning decisions are
It's not a
constitu-
hard question, it was just.
Okay, my response to that would be that zoning decisions are constitutionally delegated to the Board of Commissioners under the Constitution of Georgia. So again, if the Planning and Zoning Board chooses to make a recommendation of no recommendation, they are a recommending body, and that is their recommendation. It is the decision by the Board of Commissioners that is actually the final decision, as zoning is constitutionally delegated to the legislative body under the Constitution of Georgia.
Good enough, thank you so much.
All
Madam
right.
Chair, you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll try it again. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion for Z 2023-05?
I make a motion that we accept Z 2023-05.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board?
Point of clarity.
Madam Vice Chair?
Thank you. Ms. Duncan, with the approval of this includes all of your conditions, including everything that you read into, if we approve it as is?
So again, my understanding is if you were approving it as is, it would include all of the conditions. We have some draft language, if you would like, the condition with the preference by the applicant to amend just for the gravel roads. We have some draft language that we've jotted down, if you would like, to amend condition 11 for the approval of the paved road without curb and gutter. So it would certainly be helpful if we understood what the intent of the board is, but as stated, we understand that is the intent of the board to approve Z 2023-05 as presented by staff, including condition number 11 as presented.
Thank you for that point of clarity. I yield the floor, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner
I would like to
Alvarez?
approve Z, and I'd like to make a correction, please. I'd like to approve Z 2023.
Okay.
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 Apologize. Go ahead.
You have,
Okay. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve Z 2023-05 with the removal of the request of section 11 and allow the impervious surface, the gravel.
impervious or pervious?
Impervious, I'm sorry, impervious.
Okay. Okay.
Apologize.
All right, no problem. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Board of Commissioners, any discussion? We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, please respond. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 4-1 motion, a 4-1 vote, and the motion carries. All right, to approve. Thank you. I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman and Board of Commissioners on that matter. At this point in time, that concludes our agenda for the evening, so the Planning and Zoning Board is hereby adjourned.
All right, thank you, Board of Commissioners. If there's nothing else to come before this body, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.